A millionaire, one misfortune, and a woman came into his life. After breaking his leg, the millionaire man was cut off from his work and his world, on the verge of depression. But Beth, his cheerful and charming nurse, became the light in his dark life. But every fairy tale has its obstacles. Can this love transcend the rules of society and the rigid walls of a noble family? Or will Ethan lose his true love forever? The answers are in this story that will leave a mark deep in your heart. Please don't forget to subscribe for more. Ethan, a millionaire entrepreneur, is a charismatic but reserved 35-year-old man. Having created his own fortune through hard work and intelligence, Ethan also comes from a well-established and noble family. The death of his father at a young age has left a deep mark on Ethan's life, turning him into a man who is powerful on the outside, but very lonely on the inside. He now lives with his mother in a magnificent mansion on the shores of the Bosphorus. However, in this magnificent life, Ethan's emotional world is almost an empty room. Everything in the mansion runs like clockwork: servants, cooks, gardeners. Everyone works to maintain this glorious order. Ethan, on the other hand, focuses on his work from early in the morning until late at night. His work is the only passion in his life, but fate has other plans for him. One morning, as Ethan prepares for his busy schedule as usual, he doesn't notice the newly cleaned floor in the company and slips and falls hard. Although the pain is reflected on his face, he does not take it seriously at first. But an X-ray at the hospital painfully reveals the truth. Ethan's leg is severely broken, and the doctor says he must stay at home for months of treatment. This news upsets Ethan's equilibrium. For a man who is constantly on the move, accustomed to the pace of business life, this forced pause is like a prison sentence. He soon becomes withdrawn, uninterested in anything, and finds himself in a dark depression. His mother, on the other hand, worries about her son's condition and is overwhelmed by the burden of the company and the work. Therefore, she decides to find someone to help Ethan. This is where Beth comes in. Beth is a 28 years old, blonde, green-eyed, and charming woman. Although she is intelligent, energetic, and cheerful, and brings life to everyone around her, her past has not been easy for her. She had to drop out of medical school due to financial and family problems and started to earn a living as a nurse. Beth's warm and lively character is in stark contrast to Ethan's cold and melancholic mood. But it is precisely this contrast that will create a spark where the two intersect. Beth's arrival marks the beginning of an unexpected transformation in Ethan's life. Ethan's life was turned upside down when his leg was broken. Being cut off from his world of constant work had turned him into an impatient and nervous man. His shouts echoed through the quiet corridors of the mansion, making even the servants uneasy. Ethan, who used to be kind to them, now could not control his anger at the slightest mistake, creating an uneasy atmosphere in the mansion. Beth's arrival took place in the midst of this chaos. When she stepped into the mansion with her colorful clothes, golden hair, and warm smile, everyone felt her energy. But this light did nothing to touch Ethan's dark mood. Beth's first day was a real test. Ethan was sitting on the bed when Beth approached him. "I thought you might like this book. Let's read it," she said in a cheerful voice. But Ethan, without even looking at her, pulled the book out of her hand and tossed it aside. "No, I can read it to myself," he snapped. Beth's smile froze, but she tried not to show it. "Then I'll get you something else," she said, and Ethan's voice was once again like a sharp knife. "Don't bother. You talk too much." Beth was not used to this kind of behavior. Her eyes filled with tears, but she held herself together and left the room. "I'm not going to let him intimidate me," she thought. That day, she tried telling jokes to cheer Ethan up, but was completely shaken by another hurtful remark from Ethan. "I don't understand why you're so positive. After all, you're not even a real doctor." Those words shattered Beth's defenses. That night in the bathroom, she broke down and sobbed. "This job is going to tear me apart," she whispered, looking at her reflection in the mirror. But she didn't want to give up. Ethan's harshness was a sign that something was hurting her inside, and Beth decided to hold on to the job as if to resolve that pain. In his room that night, watching out the window, Ethan deeply regretted the words he had said to Beth, but his pride kept him from apologizing to Beth. The next day, when Beth brought him his dinner, Ethan looked carefully at her face. He noticed that Beth's eyes were slightly puffy. "I think she's been crying," he thought, and his guilt deepened. But the way she expressed it was awful again. "You can quit if you find it hard." Beth didn't take Ethan's words seriously, but she felt broken inside. That evening, Beth met with a close friend. When she told her friend about the situation with Ethan, they both burst out laughing. Her friend said, "The guy must be the world's leading brand of rudeness. But you'll keep him in line," she said, lifting Beth's spirits. This brief meeting re-energized Beth. When she showed up at the mansion the next day, more alive, Ethan was surprised by her energy. For the first time, he realized how strong Beth was. One morning, when Beth was bringing Ethan coffee, she absent-mindedly spilled the cup on him. Beth panicked as the coffee spilled all over Ethan's shirt. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." She quickly grabbed a cloth and tried to clean it up. Ethan hadn't been this close to anyone in a long time, and Beth felt strangely warm inside as his hands touched her. Beth shyly said, "I'll get something quick," and left the room. Ethan thought to himself, "Why is this woman so fascinating?" One afternoon, Ethan's mother was having coffee with one of the trusted maids who had worked in the kitchen for years when she began to speak in a heavy voice. Her voice was filled with a sternness that was in stark contrast to Beth's always cheerful and friendly demeanor. "That girl who was hanging around Ethan, Beth or something. You must have noticed she goes too far. The way she dresses, the way she acts. It's like she's here to destroy our family's reputation. It's absurd that she's even under the same roof with our last name. A man like Ethan, left to a nanny with no roots? These people are always the same. They look cheerful, they talk sweet, but their eyes are always higher. Who knows what he'd do if he had the chance?" Beth was returning to pick up the tray she had left in the kitchen. The words she heard stabbed her like a knife in the heart. For a moment, she felt as if her feet were nailed to the floor. But as the conversation continued, the knife dug deeper. "If she's here to serve Ethan, she's just doing her job. But from what I've seen, that girl has her sights set much higher. It's shameful to even mention her name in the same sentence as our family name. And I won't let her hurt Ethan. We have to make her leave somehow. Our family can't afford such a disgrace." Beth held her breath. Her heart was pounding like it was going to burst. Up until that moment, she had been patient with everything, even Ethan's hurtful words. But this conversation was something else. Disgraceful. The word echoed in his mind. The cold air of the room suddenly enveloped his whole body. She put down the tray and went back up to her room, locking the door behind her before she could stop the tears. The next morning, Beth was nowhere to be seen. Days passed, but Beth did not return. Ethan deeply felt the emptiness her absence left in the house. Everything made him realize how different she was. But Beth was burdened by the words she had heard and was trying to forget Ethan. Ethan had finally recovered and was back at work. But as he sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen, only one name echoed in his mind: Beth. Her cheerfulness, her bright clothes, her shiny hair, and her charming smile. Even the sound of her voice echoing through the hallways of the mansion had not been erased from Ethan's mind. But most of all, Beth's absence left a huge hole in Ethan's world. Every day he asked himself the same question. Why did she leave? A person doesn't just disappear like that for no reason. Ethan now had to find out why Beth had left. One by one, he checked the servants of the house, but no one would say anything straightforward. Only a trusted maid who had worked at the mansion for years told Ethan everything. She detailed how her mother's harsh, even hurtful words had deeply wounded Beth and caused her to leave home. Unwilling to believe his mother, Ethan's anger boiled over. He slammed the door to his own room hard. The long, silent walls of the mansion shook with Ethan's anger. Another servant, an old woman, ran after him. "Mr. Ethan," she said in a calm but emotional voice, "I really loved Beth. She was such a good person. She took care of my sick daughter for 2 days for nothing. She lost sleep over a child she didn't even know. It's hard to find someone like her. I'm still in touch with him if you want to reach him." Hearing these words, Ethan's admiration for Beth deepened. She really is an amazing woman, he thought. He got Beth's phone number from her. He held the phone in his hand all that night, thinking about what to say. Finally, she worked up the courage to call Beth. Beth was stunned when she heard Ethan's voice on the other end of the phone. She spoke distantly, as if trying to hide her hurt. When Ethan asked her to meet him, Beth reluctantly agreed. The next day, Ethan picked Beth up from her house in his car. He was quiet the whole way, but when he took Beth to a colorful cafe, he was the first to break the silence. "This place is just like you," he said with a slight smile, colorful and cheerful. Beth looked into Ethan's eyes and saw that he was determined. Ethan took a deep breath and began. "Beth, things haven't been the same since you left. I keep thinking about you. I know what Mom said, and I know you don't deserve this. You have such a strong, beautiful soul. If you let me, I want to invite you to the life you deserve. I'm in love with you. I won't let anyone, and I mean anyone, stand in the way of that." Beth felt Ethan's sincerity and determination, and tears welled up in her eyes. "I couldn't get you out of my mind either, Ethan," she admitted. "But I didn't think it was possible. Our worlds are too different." Ethan took Beth's hands in his. "Just because our worlds are different doesn't change anything. You changed my world completely. I'm not the man sitting in that dark room anymore." "You did that, Beth." Those words released the emotions Beth had been holding inside. She leaned in and kissed Ethan shyly. Ethan embraced her tightly, feeling the touch like the warmth he had been waiting years for. In that moment, they both knew that their lives would never be the same again. Beth's warm energy had entered Ethan's cold, orderly, but unpleasant life. They had found true love. They looked at each other, smiled, and for the first time felt a hopeful excitement for the future. And that was just the beginning of their story.